Anytime there were two cars together anywhere, most of the time resulted in some kind of street race.
The heart's pumping, adrenaline's going, and you have the thoughts in your head of, hey, all these people are watching.
It's an addiction. You either got it or you don't. Some people are afraid of it. Some people can't conquer it, and they don't want any part of it.
My grandfather and my Nana, they both were racers. My Nana would talk about how the wind in her hair and going fast and how exciting and how her heart would just pump and race during it.
It's an adrenaline rush. You're addicted to speed, and it's a neat feeling. I mean, I love going fast.
For car guys, that's the way it is. I mean, it's a noise, it's a smell, it's a competition, it's all those kind of things. I mean, it's not even worth asking about, well, how did it evolve? Because it just is, you know? I mean, it didn't evolve, it's just the way people are. Ford Motor Company was formed from money won by Henry Ford in a race that he had against a Winton back in Detroit, back in 1901, and this was competition. Who had the fastest car? So they set up this grand sweepstakes race, they called it, and the prize to win that race was $10,000. Here goes Ford motoring on by him and wins the race. So 10 laps, he wins the race, gets a $10,000 prize. And that was the start of the Ford Motor Company. The Moonshiners, actually before World War II, hopped up their cars. They were very special automobiles, mainly Fords. And they'd hop them up. Yeah, they'd turn out about twice the horsepower as normal cars, and then they put these big tanks in the back, and they put the moonshine in these things, and they go down the road. Now, the cops knew who they were, and sometimes they'd want to chase them if they had a load. Well, the moonshiners figured out that you put speed equipment on your car, and you get the car hopped up, you can outrun the cops. And then the moonshiners, what they do on the weekends, they get together, same deal. Not running booze. They go out and race their cars. They get off and pair off and drag race or go out and do a high-speed run to see how fast they'd go. And that truly was the origin of NASCAR and the NASCAR organization, Daytona Beach. Bill France, early on, 1947, decided to hold a race on the beach at Daytona where the sand would really pack in. Now that was down south, see, so that's moonshining and that's NASCAR. Out here in Southern California, it was drag racing and just going off one to one. The servicemen came back from World War II, were building these cars, they were hopping them up. After World War II, you couldn't get a new car, so they did an old car. They get an old Ford, you know, generally 1930s, 32, 34 Ford. The V8 engine came out in 1932 for Ford Motor Company, and that was kind of revolutionary, and that became the engine of choice to throw in your hot rod and really make it go fast. So people started making equipment that would make that engine go faster. So these soldiers would come back, these veterans would come back, and they'd settle mainly in California, and they'd hop their cars up and they'd go out and they'd race them.
When you're born in Los Angeles, California, and you go to school and you know, you're here, everything's a car. And my brother was interested in cars. He started souping up his little cars, fixing them up that he had, and I guess it just bleeds over from your brother and your family, that's all.
And it became organized disorganization where people would just meet different places and compete. I grew up in the Hancock Park area. We had Larchmont, and Larchmont was a natural drag strip. And a drag strip was that, you know, it had a finite length to it. So you'd race for half a mile or quarter of a mile, and who could get from one stoplight to the next stoplight the fastest.
There was a place here in the valley called Sepulveda Dam, 46, 47, and 48. And there's a long straightaway there of Sepulveda Boulevard. But I think the law enforcement in those days were a little more lenient because we really didn't cause them much trouble. So I think they sort of looked the other way for a while. They wanted the guys sort of get it out of their system other than go someplace where it wasn't safe.
This was a great place to grow up. If you were interested in cars in the 50s and 60s, you know, I'm sure the climate had huge, you know, impact on people and cars because, you know, weather was great. You didn't have to worry about sliding into a snowdrift.
And you had out here in California, not much traffic, great roads, and it was just a natural, particularly here in Southern California, for street racing to really evolve into what it did.
A lot of the innovation was, you know, born in California and then traveled east. The technology and stuff would kind of get around.
But what happened out of all that was a real large safety factor. A lot of these cars were just thrown together. They didn't handle well. They didn't have any brakes. You know, maybe the motor went well and the car went fast, but you know, the rest of it didn't go along with the way the motor was performing. You had people getting killed and people killing other people, and that's led to the evolution of the National Hot Rod Association. Tried to make it legitimate to go out and race your car, and so they'd go and sanction races all over the country. What evolved out of the street racing and the NHRA was drag strips were set up around Southern California.
In the Los Angeles area, any one time there's probably at least a half dozen drag strips that were open on weekends, mostly Saturdays and Sundays. You could take your car and race against another person, you know, in kind of a match race. It wasn't really that organized, but it was at a track where it was safe. And for us, it was pretty much a family deal. Most of the people that raced in the category that we raced in, they all had families, and our kids, you know, would hang around with their kids, and it was a fun time.
And then slowly, as the population built and the houses were built and the property was so expensive, they were gone.
Once the track shut down, and you know, street racing about tripled from what it was before the track to after the track. So you'd gotten all these people into it. It was a legal way for these people to race, and now it's like, where are we going to go to race? Where are we going to go to get the same adrenaline rush? And so people went to the streets.
You have the same problem today. In 2008, 2009, we have the same problem. The kids still go out and want to go out and race their cars, who has the fastest car. So you have these outlaw drag racing, street racing things going on down in industrial areas of different cities around Los Angeles and the rest of the country. And people are getting hurt. People are getting killed, you know, doing this.
Now the kids that are driving today, they're 17 and 18 years old that are street racing, are running 120 miles an hour. There's still that adrenaline, macho, testosterone. You pull up to the stoplight and boom, boom. I do it now. I got a new Corvette and it's radical, you know, and I pull up alongside of a car. I pulled up alongside of a Porsche the other day and I looked over at him and I wanted to really hammer it. But you know, the speed is so fast that you can get into trouble so quick and these kids can't react to it.
You get the itch, but then you got to scratch it. You don't want to do that anymore. You want to do that, go out to a drag strip someplace and get it out of your system.
I can tell you, sitting here today, I'm lucky to be alive, you know, and I count my blessings that all my buddies are still alive, and you know, all my buddies are still my car buddies from back when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, my high school buddies and all that. They're still my closest friends, you know. We have that bond that the automobile brings you.
I think with my grandfather's era and my dad's era, it was more of a want of racing, just a want to have a good time. And nowadays, it's kind of gotten into money. People won't race for under $1,000. My daughter's the one I worry about when it comes to racing, because she is very much the adrenaline. She loves that, and she really wants to keep the slogan of, you know, girls rule, boys drool going.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
The best thing about racing cars was winning, and the accomplishment of taking something and making it go faster.
So that's really the origin of the thing as it evolved through the years. And, you know, it's the same back in 1900 as it is today.